Kank, kank.
Kank.
Kank. Hey, how's everybody tonight? Welcome back.
I'm still rendering.
You're still rendering?
Yeah.
What happened to, remember the future of the past, Mike Manley? Remember like the Jetsons and all that, where supercomputers were giant...
Work.
room filling file cabinets. Yeah. And the hole punch paper would like spit out of his mouth.
What happened to Spacely Sprockets?
I think they might have gotten bought out in the early aughts.
They got bought out by what's his name? Tesla.
Did they ever say what the date was for the Jetson? Was it like the 3000s or something?
I don't remember them saying a date. Yeah. It was just some,
far away time.
Yeah.
It's funny to think about. I just read that thing about them trying to put Shatner in space.
He is.
And he's going
next week.
And to also think that there's so many, and we've talked about this off camera, Mike, that there's so many things that have actually come to fruition from science fiction.
Specifically from Star Trek.
Yeah.
This comes from Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. What we're doing right now is from Star Trek.
That's right.
Remember
that episode where they zoomed?
Where they were trying to get a Skype call to go through?
That's right. Yeah. No, I mean, I remember a special several years ago. I believe it was on the Discovery Channel, hosted by William Shatner, that specifically addressed all the things that they came up that they did on the show that now people are, because even remember the first cell phone even flipped open like a communicator. I had one that had a little flip part that flipped up just like the communicator.
And, we're getting called out in the chat.
But you can't get more meta than the guy who played Captain Kirk actually now going into space.
Oh well, I mean that's like it writes its own. That's right. It writes its own story.
I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, in that way, a person who played a fictional character, it's like I played Poseidon. Now I'm actually going to become Poseidon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I don't know.
Well, the future is wild, and we're living in it. We're soaking in it, Mike Manley. Hey, you guys, welcome to Pencil to Pencil, your favorite pandemic podcast, brought to you every Wednesday at 8 p.m. EST by your best friends. What? It's by your best friends in comic book experts. Jamar Nicholas, some say Philadelphia's favorite son. And some call me Maurice. Well, every time I say the Kevin Bacon one, you always make a noise, so I'm not going to use that one tonight. Do you deny that I know a lot of people? That's not even a name drop or a brag. It is what it is.
You do know a lot of people, but
and a lot of people I've connected or are connected through me. So I think the 6 degrees work there. But if you disagree, Mike Manley, we can take it to the net.
I think you're more important than Kevin Bacon.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mike.
You're like Kevin Pork Roll, Kevin Scrapple.
I like Kevin Scrapple, and Kevin Bacon is from Philly, so I'll allow it.
Wasn't his dad like some famous like city planner or something?
Urban planner. He's an urban planner. Yeah. And also I'm joined by the proverbial hip by my best bud in Master Chief of Comic Books, Mike Manley. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, ladies and gents.
Last episode, we did boot camp last week. Was that right, Mike?
That's right. It was boot camp.
Where's the time go? And we also, but before that, we did a deep plug for some of the things going on with us. Just to keep this going, Mike Manley, you have a fantastic TeePublic t-shirt site that's up and popping. How's that going from the last time we talked?
Good. Continual trickle of sales. I've gotten the most enjoyable thing actually is in the last week. I've gotten 2 pictures from friends who they posted pictures of them wearing the T-shirt.
Yeah,
That's really cool to see somebody, because it's abstract in a way. You know, you see the drawing, and they only exist as drawings, and then you see them on the website as drawings, but then actually see somebody wearing your, you know, and then I can't wait until I see somebody with it just like a big tattoo on their chest.
Well, I mean, you have, like, with your Skull Kids designs, you have some really like strong images, and one of my favorite ones is the kids they're on the big wheel bicycle.
Yeah, that's one.
That's
I think
a
one of the
strong
ones.
one.
Yes, one of the ones that has sold, I think, the most.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I have to update your thing because I have what you had before they gave you your own name. But is it TeePublic at users Mike Manley or artist Mark?
Or Draw Manley.
Draw Manley. All right, I'll update that. But go to TeePublic, check out Mike's stuff. Pickups. Do you have other things set up with that? Like you can get a mask and a
you can get everything. They have stickers, mugs, T-shirts, baby onesies. So you could be like wearing your T-shirt, but didn't have a onesie underneath your T-shirt, and then have your tote bag that has your phone case and your coffee cup, and they got
you're all manlied up.
Yeah, really. You know, you'll be told. You know, you can sleep in a Skull Kids, drink from the Skull Kids.
I love it. And and I'm glad, Mike, that you pulled the trigger on this, because we've been talking about you doing something like this for a while, and I'm just glad to see people coming out and supporting, because the work is dope. Everybody knows that. We wouldn't be here if we doubted the skills of Mike Manley. And on my side of the fence, I was talking last week about how the cover for my first Scholastic Graphics book, Leon the Extraordinary, went out. And
do you have that? Do you still have the graphic of that?
Yeah, I'll have to dig it up. Maybe I'll pull it out before we head out. And Mike Manley, I can say for the first time in my career, you can pre-order my book anywhere where books are sold.
Anywhere.
That's real rap.
Rick's 5 and 10.
All of it.
Target,
Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all of that. It's all there, brother. So I'm really excited about that. And the first book comes out in August of next year. And then we're off to the races with more. So please support.
You'll probably be done by book 2 by next year, right?
Yeah. That's right about my landing point, is when that comes out. I should be done with book 2.
And then you go into space.
That's right.
We're gonna launch you into space.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, I'm gonna stow away in Shatner's wig box.
You're gonna wear a Gorn mask.
That's fantastic. So let's do a little housekeeping, and then we'll shout out our sponsors and get started. So if you're new to the podcast, well, hello. That's our official greeting. This is live. This is LIVE. If you're tuning in right now on Facebook or YouTube, you can be a part of the show. I can't see you unless you put something in the comments or the chat.
If you wave.
I can kind of see you. And, ask questions, get involved, but just know that everything you guys type in the chat, I may or may not put on the screen. It's at my discretion. Only if it brings value to our conversation will I bring it on screen. So think wisely. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. The good folks at Graphicsly. You see the John up there, the world famous John. Graphicsly are the people that create Clip Studio Paint. Yes, that Clip Studio Paint. I keep telling y'all think it's another one. It's not the wish.com Clip Studio Paint.
It's clap studio.
And also over here, our great friend John Morrow, who's a publisher of Mike's Draw magazine, now in his 45th year. So go cop it. Mike has said a couple of times that Draw is John's selling out all of the physical Draw magazines. So if you have holes in your collection, you better cop them now.
Yeah, we're almost. I think we're right down to like the skids there.
Yeah.
And John, I think, has another sale going on. So he always has sales, and you can also get it always as a bundle. So if you don't have them, you want to get them all as a digital bundle. He has a very nice deal for that as well.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody for checking us out and sticking in with us. Well, we have a fantastic show for you coming up. We have an incredible character designer animation. What do you call it, Mike? Viz dev, visual.
Yeah, well, we can parse that out a little bit because I'm sort of this is something I'm very interested because that's something that
Sure.
everybody. The two most popular things I hear young artists are interested in doing is viz dev and character design.
Yes.
And so maybe Bertrand can help shed a little light on the separation and overlap of those twos.
Yeah, I'm very excited, guys. Tonight we have Bertrand Todesco on the show. He's piping in all the way from the West Coast, where it's still nice and sunny out where he is, and it's like pitch black where we are. So you see how the world works. We're going to have a fantastic show. I'm sure everybody has questions. I would love to read some to them on the podcast. So please, let's start cooking up some questions. Let's bring them in, everybody. Oh, hold on, I gotta get the cake together.
Oh, okay.
Let's bring in Bertrand. Hello. Oh, there it is.
There
There it is. There it is.
He's being rendered.
Hey, hello. How are you?
Hi guys. Hi everyone. I'm very fine, thanks.
Thank you. It's great to meet you. I'm very excited about our talk tonight. So so just maybe we could just start right there, Mike. If you want to maybe like dial into what you just said a second ago.
Okay.
And then I'll check the chat out.
Okay. So I know you say that it says on your Instagram, which is where I saw your work, that you do viz dev and character design. And like I was saying, that seems to be the two things that most young artists that I meet today are interested in doing. And there seems to be some crossover, but there's also maybe a difference as I'm learning between that, what you do if you're doing that for games and that if you're doing that for animation. Am I right there?
I guess so. I don't know. I just worked a little bit in the summer for a video game company back in France in 2003. So it was a long time ago. I don't know about the video game industry, but talking about animation, I've been working in animation for 15 years now, something like that. Maybe more actually. I started in France and now I'm in LA, like it's been 3 years and a half. It can overlap the viz dev and the character design. As far as I'm concerned, I only do viz dev for character design, meaning that I can't draw a background or something like that. And most of the time when students and artists are talking about viz dev, they are talking about making an illustration that is to describe the mood of a scene, like coloring like a storyboard frame or something like that. And this is not something that I do. When I say viz dev character design, that means that I create the style, I create the color, I create the line, and it's more something like that. And so it's development of characters. And the opposite, or like in comparison with to character design, that is a more technical part of the job. That is not necessarily your creation, that you have like a design from your design supervisor, from your lead character designer, or from somebody else, a freelancer or whatever, and you have to do a turnaround. You have to do some facial expressions. You have to do some, I don't know, the hands sheets, the shoe sole, I don't know.
And the mouth charts, the expressions, things like that.
Yeah. So this is not development. This is just design. I mean, it's super intense to do that, but to me, this is the two parts of the job, and I like to balance between those two parts. I think this is what makes it rich and interesting all the time. Like you have your part of creation, and you also have a big part of technique. And I think that most of the time when the young people who are starting in animation or who are in school, they want to do that. They want to create characters and they want to do this dev because they only have to do one image. And they are happy with that because they don't have to face the technical struggle, the struggle that is to do like a technical turnaround and to keep the volumes and to like all the boring stuff.
Right.
I love to do that, but I know that most of the young people, they want to create characters, like they do a 3/4 front view and they are like, okay, I created a character. And you're like, not quite, man.
Right. And why don't you? We can dial it back even a little bit further and tell us about your life in France, where you went to school, and what got you interested in doing animation. Were you interested in comics? The all the great French comics.
Yeah, this is a great question because I pivoted from an industry to another. So I grew up in the south of France, close to Marseille, in Arles, which is famous for because Vincent van Gogh painted his most famous paintings there, like the sunflowers and the fields with the straw bales and stuff like that. So this is where I grew up, like in a very tiny village close to Arles. And I had the opportunity to go in a school that was named Sup Infocom. Sup Infocom. I don't know what is the accent in English.
Okay.
Now it's named MOPA. They changed the name because whatever. So when I grew up, I was drawing. Like my grandmother used to paint as a hobby. And I was drawing. My bigger brother was drawing as well, and then he parted ways to do some music. But I kept drawing. I always drew, and at some point when I was a kid, I was interested in doing some comic books because in France back then you had a lot of comic books from Belgium and France. And the animation that I was watching on TV was American and mostly Japanese because at this time the Japanese animation was super strong in France. Like we had one channel that was the most popular channel was broadcasting some animes. So everybody was fan of Dragon Ball like 10 years or 20 years before the US.
Yeah.
Apparently, when I talk about things like with my colleagues here, they don't know or they know that quite recently, and I'm like, I grew up with that, So yeah, it's interesting, like to know how the acquisitions and stuff, like the broadcast, depending the country. So yeah, I read an article about a famous comic book artist from Belgium who was saying that the comic book industry was not paying enough, and I was maybe 6 or something like that. And I was like, okay, that's not what I'm going to do.
Right.
Wow.
So yeah, very early on in my life, I was like, I don't want to be a starving artist, like this is not something that I want to do. So I kept drawing, despite that, I kept drawing because I was like, maybe the industry will change or whatever. Maybe I can be an artist no matter what, not in comic book, but I can maybe do something else. But I also went into the more business in school. Like this was my major in high school, business. And then I was like, the fuck, I don't enjoy that. So I want to go back to art school. And I had the chance that Sup Infocom, the school just opened in Arles, in my city, when I had my A levels, my baccalaureate, which is the name in France. And so yeah, it was a school that is specialized in CG, in 3D. So I learned to model in 3D and stuff like that. And I was still drawing, but yeah, it was the evolution, and it's kind of super cool to make a drawing, and then you model it, and then you texture it, and then you can put bones inside, and then you can animate, and you're like, wow, my character is living.
Right.
Like maybe you have that when you're doing a comic book, that depending, like when you read it, like the character is moving, and with the dialogues and everything, like they are living. But yeah, like seeing that in 3D, it was nice.
Bertrand, I have a couple of questions about that. So when you started learning 3D in school, what were the programs were you using? Was it like 3ds Max? Was that
Exactly.
out then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering exactly how those rendering programs worked in different countries, as I know that was really popular at one point in the States, but I wondered if it was a little different in other places, or there was a bit of a time difference.
Yeah, I know that having my diploma, so at the end it's 4 years, now it's 5, but at my time it was 4 years, and in the last year you have to do a short film with the team. So I did that with 3 other teammates, classmates. And yeah, we did that on 3ds Max, and we realized that most of the market was working on XSI and on Maya.
Yeah.
So we went. So the school was in the south of France, was in Ars, but all the jobs are in Paris, or they can be in London, for example, or like even further in the US or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So with my classmates, we went to Paris to search for a job, and then we went to London, and most of the companies were telling us that, oh, you have to. It's very good, like your short movie is good, but you have to be good on Maya or XSI because they are the software that are trending or that they are most used right now. So there was this kind of deception, but we had jobs.
That's all that matters.
I'm sort of interested too in like so you were reading comics, you were reading I take French comics and manga, right? Probably both, I would assume.
And comic books. Yeah, so I started like reading Tintin and Asterix and all the Lucky Luke. I don't know. I think that maybe you don't know those ones. Maybe you only know the Smurfs. And
well, we know all that.
We know all that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I was reading all those stuffs, and then at some point I discovered Image comic books. So I started with Gen 13, Blade, and Darkness. The Darkness. I really like that. Also the one with the armors.
Was that the Strike Force or one of those?
No, it was
Cyber Force or one of those.
I don't remember. Oh, what was the name? I don't know. It was super cool. It was Benitez who was drawing that.
Oh, Joe Benitez. I remember. I can't remember which one it was.
It was a super cool story. I was really into that, but I forget the name. That's crazy.
Somebody in the chat is going to say, "Oh, Wetworks." Phil says, "Was that it?"
No.
Oh, I swore that was it.
No.
What's up, Phil?
It was at Image comic book, and
that's very interesting too, because that stuff is so different from the French school of cartooning. I mean, it's like completely the opposite in some ways,
but I yeah, for sure. So I think this is the thing that I liked. Like for real, like I started growing up, I was reading all those French comic books with big nose and the two eyes that are like on the same shape, they are not spaced out. And then I discovered the comic books when you have like more work of the black and white, especially for the superheroes like Gen 13 and things like that, where you have all the shading of like something that is shiny or something like that. And this is something that we don't learn in France. That's something that's not present in the comic books. So I was like, wow, this is crazy how you have this feeling of volume just with black and white. So I found it was very interesting in the beginning. Gen 13 with G. Scott Campbell. I was really into his work, and also Battle Chaser with Joe Madureira. I loved that. And also Travis Charest.
Oh yeah,
right,
he was so precise, and like I really like those kind of things. I also discovered Adam Hughes, of course, and I really like that. Adam Warren also.
Yeah.
I was really into that. And then, or maybe at the same time, I started to read also some mangas. Yeah. But because I watched anime on TV, but they were not necessarily published in France. It was
Oh,
animation.
really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, we had Dragon Ball for sure, and maybe some other one, Ranma 1/2. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But this is a little bit further in time that we had like all those publishing, and now France is the second country that is reading the most mangas. Like it's huge. Like the French kids are reading a lot of mangas and a lot also of French Belgian comic books. But yeah, manga is a big thing in France. Like, yeah.
And now there's this sort of this. I see. I came across this artist who was doing sort of like Belgian, the Franco-Belgian style mixed with the Japanese, with the manga, and you sort of have the school that's somewhere in between, where you see a lot of guys probably of your generation, maybe a little bit older, who are combining the French with the Japanese, and you can see sort of like both styles merging into another style, you know, which is a little different than what happened here, because people didn't necessarily merge well, a little bit with like people like you say, like Adam Warren. It merged a little bit of the American sensibility with the Japanese sensibility.
Totally.
Yeah. So you see that there's a lot of studios. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Batiste Gulpe or something like that. I'll find his name before the end of the show. But I came across this stuff, and at first I thought it was a Japanese person, but it was but it also had that feeling of the French, the line claire, sort of like combining both of them.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, Baptiste and his whole crew, like Fabien and Bill, they are totally like embracing the Japanese vibe and combining with the French Belgium education that we had. And so, yeah, definitely those guys that like Baptiste Gobert, Gobi, which is his nickname.
That
he
guy.
definitely have like some things like that, and also I guess maybe you watched Last Man, the adaptation of the comic book Last Man. So there is a comic book that is made by French people, but they are in a manga format. Like this is 300 pages and only in black and white, and they made an animation. What's the name of the director? I don't know, but he's totally in that vibe of mixing Japanese and French influences and making a great job. And yeah, if you guys like, if you didn't watch the Last Man show, I don't know if he's available in the US, but yeah, it's worth a look for sure.
Well, Bertrand, I have a question about the albums and things like that, because I was fortunate enough to go to Europe a couple of times, and I was in some part of Paris, and there was just like whole sections that was nothing but comic shops, right? And the kind of French albums are very thin, hardback, color, beautiful objects, but they're very thin and small. So I could see like taking something like that and then getting a fat manga volume maybe would kind of excite you in a different way. Was it less of an art thing and more of just a volume?
Or you just get like a big chunk, a big chunk of what you like, instead of like one nice thing every year, a couple years you get one. Now you get the big.
Yeah, the thing is that the mangas coming in France changed the whole industry. I would say, like the French comic books used to be 48 or 52 pages in color, in bigger format, bigger size. And yeah, if you read the old iconic French-Belgium comic book, who are not comedy, but who are more adventure, there is a lot of ellipses because you have to tell a story in 52 pages maximum. So when you read, and actually it's like when you read the first X-Men's. Like recently I read the first X-Men's without Wolverine, like the really first one, and like every frame there is an ellipse in time. Like it goes super fast. And so the French-Belgian comic books were a little bit like that. And the like the manga brought a new narration, a new way, a new pace in reading, like because you have 350 pages, I think, per volume, something like that. So this is not the same way to say a story,
right?
So this is very interesting, and I understand that kids, they prefer to have 350 pages rather than 48.
Right.
This is like, and the adventures are maybe more crazy when you read Naruto or One Piece, or me when I was a kid, Dragon Ball. Like it's more adventurous, it's more crazy. But you have feelings and more emotions. Excuse me, what did you say?
I said the fights can go on like way longer in some of those, because I used to get Shonen Jump, and you would be like, in an American comic, which is 22 pages, you might have 10 that would be action, but you've got to have the other stuff to balance out, connecting the stories and leading you on. But if you've got 300 pages, everybody's constantly building their powers and blasting, and then there's more fighting, and and I do know from having taught younger people, that's what they like. You were right, they like getting a big fat volume of something. I think that's one of the things that attracts them, because you get basically more for your money.
Exactly. Yeah, because in France, the comic books, the French comic books are maybe close to 10 euros, and the mangas are actually cheaper for more pages, because they are already made the money in Japan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rather than in France, when the new comic books come out, it has to make the money here because this is the only market. This is France. So this is unbalanced, and I understand that now more and more French people want to do mangas because this is what they read, and this is what attracts, and maybe where they can make money. I don't know. And it's really interesting. Like, you make me realize that maybe the US comic books are kind of in the middle, because you guys already started like a long time ago to work as a studio, with one drawer, one inker, one colorist. And in France, it's kind of recent to do that, and it's not really accepted in Europe. Like, some artists are doing that, but I believe that most of the time it's like you can have one writer and one drawer,
right,
who is also making the colors, and sometimes it's only one guy that is doing everything.
Yeah.
So maybe comic books was in like a transition.
Yeah. When I interviewed Mobius a while back, he described the American comic market as like being sort of like a Frankenstein, because you had all these people that, like you were saying, penciler, inker, and if you're working at Marvel, you kind of have a Marvel style, and if you're working at DC, you kind of have a DC style, especially the further back you go, like into the 70s and the 60s. You definitely had a sort of a house style. So he thought it was sort of like a Frankenstein, where everybody was sort of like I'm doing the arm, and I'm doing the leg, and I'm
And now it's the same in VFX. If you look like the people who are working at ILM or on the big VFX company, like some guys, they are animating only the eyes, of Hulk. I don't know, like everything is so like you have one specialist for the muscles, one specialist for maybe the shape of the hands, and they are doing that. Like even I know one friend of mine was working at Pixar, and he was blocking all the animation, and then somebody else was smoothing all the animation, and then another person was animating all the secondary animation, like if you have like clothes or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like so. And actually, it's called the CFX, I think, clothes FX. The person who is doing that. So
Okay.
it's like, yeah, now you have that also in cinema, which is crazy. And also, like, you made me realize something else, like talking about comic books and manga, that the kids really like that format because you have more for your money. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's the same thing that is happening with movies versus series. Now, a lot of people are attracted to series because you have time to learn the characters, you have time to have their emotions, to have time to have their backstories and stuff like that, you know, and it's longer on your own time, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But we like to follow characters. This is why we like James Bond, for example, because it's a saga. You know, you have so many
Right.
iterations. You know, and sometimes watching one movie, some people now are not interested. They're like, oh, it's only one story, and then it ends. You like, if you like the characters, you will never follow them again.
Yeah.
And you know, there is this kind of frustration, and especially like during COVID, because we were at home, and we still are actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Like with my girlfriend, like sometime we were watching series like, oh, this series has 6 seasons. Okay, let's watch that.
Right.
Because we knew that it's going to have a long pace.
So I'm also interested in how you went from. So you were interested in 2D or drawing or 2D animation, then you went into 3D animation, and now you're kind of back into 2D.
Yeah,
So you've
totally.
kind of gone from
And
one.
and in between there was another stage.
Oh, okay. What like
So yeah, like so go back in time when I was in school in the south of France in Superinfocom. At the end of the third year, you have to do an internship in a studio to
Mm.
validate your courses. And I went to a video game company.
Mm.
And this is like, I was like, okay, I don't play video games and stuff, so no video games. But after I got my diploma and I went to Paris, I didn't work in animation right away. I worked in commercials. I was a director, I was a modeler, I was a
Wow.
storyboard artist and a character designer, of course. But yeah, this is how I started my career, is in the commercial industry. And I did that for 3 years in a super cool studio, which name is Cube Creative. And then after I met not randomly, but with a lot of luck, the art director of Marathon Media back then, the creator of the Total Spies.
Mm.
okay.
So he hired me to create a new show, to create the characters of a new show, which was Gormiti, based on toys coming from Italy, and it was a huge phenomenon in Europe. And weirdly, it's not even in the US.
Wow.
Right.
But yeah, in Europe, like, and even, you know what, like, one day in a club in LA, not quite in the club, but outside, when we were in line, I heard some Italian people behind me. And so we started to talk with them. And I was like, hey guys, do you know Gormiti? And they were like, of course, I know that. And it's crazy because they were younger than me. And they grew up watching the cartoon, and they were like, oh, man, you are the one who drew that and stuff. And it was so much for them. And when I said that to the US, nobody cares because this show is not broadcast.
Yeah. That's funny, and that's so true. There was a couple things in here I wanted to say real fast, and I don't want to derail us because we're having such a great time. But our good friend JRD said a really interesting thing. Europe and Asia treats comics like art. America treats them like product. Creators are treated similarly. How do you feel about that, Bertrand? Do you kind of agree with that, or you
No,
disagree?
I tend to disagree. I think it used to be like that, maybe in France.
Mm-hmm.
In Asia, never. I think in Asia, it's like you can read books about Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball Z and
Yeah.
Dragon Ball, and or all those old artists that don't even own their own property.
Right.
You know, they don't own that. It's the publisher
The
we own that.
publishers. Yeah.
Okay, so in France, at least we have rights. Even in animation, when you create a style, you have rights. But yeah, in Asia, no, it's an industry. Like you have a studio, and everything is owned by the publisher. And in France, because of America and because of Japan, it became the same now. So you still have some comic books who are like more for artists, made by artists, but it will be more graphic novel. You know, this is more the things like that, like Blue Pills. I don't know if you read this one, with by Fredericks, or like all the Taniguchis in Japan, or in the US. I really liked Blankets, for example.
Oh
Right.
yeah, Craig Thompson. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Those kind of big books. So this is those books, whether it's in Japan with Taniguchi, or in France with some artist, or in the US with Thompson, they are considered like art, because they are. But the mainstream comics industry, it's an industry. And
Like
animation is the same. I would say it's an industry. I'm just one part in the in the whole process.
right. So yeah, with that, there was another thing, but I want to ask you a little bit more about kind of how you kept moving out of. Well, maybe talk about a little bit about doing commercial work and storyboards, and then kind of finding yourself in another water. Did you feel like anything you learned doing the commercial part of your career carried on into the next phase, or did you learn, maybe some things about yourself that you used in your next part?
Actually, it would be more that I learned, because so I was 21 or something, 21, 22 when I got my diploma and moved to Paris and started my career like in this company, in this studio. And I was young, and I was very thirsty, eager to have job and to prove myself and to be the best, etc.
Yeah.
And maybe because of that, and maybe because of talent and work, I don't know. But I started to be a director super soon, and I was an asshole. For real. I think I was just a young, cocky person, and this is what I learned mostly about this part, is that maybe it's not good to start with that amount of responsibilities and stuff when you're that young and without any experience. So I learned to work with a team. I learned like to work with the voice talent also, like I learned all the pipeline. So it was a huge experience in my career. But also afterward, when I started to work in animation and be the lead designer, also I continued to work with people, and I was still not the best person in life, but I continue to improve, and I really believe that, I really hope that now I'm very nice with everyone. But yeah, in the beginning of my career, I'm sorry for all my former coworkers, and I think it's important to realize when you were bad. And I think I was not the best person. But at the other end, like all my former coworkers are close friends now.
Yeah.
Because I was pushing everyone like to do something that they couldn't even think they were doing, that they were possible to do. But I wish, like, if I could turn back the time, I would be a better person.
Well, I would ask real quick about that. So some of your studio experiences, when you were, say, in Paris, dealing with a studio project or a team in Europe versus a team in the US, do you feel like there are cultural differences with how people communicate?
Yeah, sure.
And just to use an example, and I don't know if this is true, but say a group of people in Paris may be more open to yelling at each other just to get through a project versus maybe Americans who are very I don't want to say sensitive in that way, but there's certain rules that you couldn't get away with certain things in Paris that you could in the States.
Yeah, no, for sure there are some cultural differences, and I would say that there is some pros and cons in both things. Like in the US, like you really feel that you have the possibility to do things, and you always have cheerings, and people are encouraging you to continue and to keep doing. In France, there is two things. Like we rarely say that is good. We only say when it's not. So when nobody say anything, that means that you made a good job. And I guess that if an American person is going to work in France and they don't have like good job, they will be like, I did something wrong. But actually it's the opposite. Like if nobody say anything, is that you made a good job.
Right.
And so this is the thing that is different in the US. Is like everybody is constantly saying that's good. So you feel good, but the wrong thing is that they rarely say when something is not good.
Well, that's the hard thing, isn't it? To be critical in a way that makes the person not feel bad, but seek to improve, to work on it.
Yeah.
Right? To improve on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that starts in school because people are afraid to get the crit. I don't know how the crits are in France. If they're if your teacher is more harsh or is not afraid to hurt your feelings. Like I know in America, I know as a teacher, you have to walk sometimes on eggshells with some students because the critique for some people, they just find it so crushing. They can't overcome that.
Exactly, and this is clearly the thing that I was talking before. Like it's something that I learned to be more sensitive about because me, like you can say whatever you want. What I want to say is that I won't close myself or cry or something like that. It will actually fuel me. Like if you say I can't do something, what? Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna prove you wrong, But I understood in Paris that it's not the case for everyone. That some people, when they have a note on a drawing or when they have something like if they don't understand the note or if you said the wrong word, they can like shut down and like having a creative block, something like that. And the thing that I want to say about French, and it comes to the education and the humor more than the teacher, it's like we have a lot of self-derision. Like we constantly poke, people. It's the way we say we love each other. This is weird, but like you can insult the person that you not insult, like, but you always say a mean thing that means that you love the person. And so this is something that you can see in the studio also. Like you are more direct because everybody has this education and accept criticism, accept jokes, accept stuff more easily. So yeah, it's something totally different in the US, and I don't have the same humor for sure.
Right. There was one of the questions from one of our regulars, Eternity Forever, asks about that. How do French children know that they're doing well in school or with schoolwork?
Oh, so we have grades, so it's on 20. And you have grades. Like if you have 0, you suck, and if you have 20 on 20, you're a genius. That's it.
There it is. All right. That's fantastic.
So yeah, 20 on 20 is like never happening. But yeah, if you have 18 or something like that, that means that you're super talented. And yeah, I know, like talking with American people or even with people from other countries, People react differently on the fact that you grade students or not. I know there is this talk about, when you give back the copies to the students, if you start from 0 to 20, or if you start from 20 to 0, or if you go in a random order, because it can like really touch the students to do that. And we have to be sensitive about that. But I don't know how it is right now in France. I think they adapted to be less harsh with the students, less rude, and but I don't know, honestly. I think it depends the teacher, it depends the school, it depends the area in France.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, well, Bertrand, this might be a very great time for us to show us some of your work. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
I can share my screen, guys.
Yeah, and I'll bring it up.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, if you can talk about maybe a little bit more of like your learning and like where you learn the principles of animation, where you learning the Disney principles, which you see reflected in a lot of the Belgian comics. If you look at Asterix, you see Disney.
Yeah.
You see that the squash and stretch and the volumes. You see a lot of squash and stretch in Lucky Luke and all that stuff. You see Spirou.
But
the Strumps, all of that. Yeah.
I couldn't really I've been drawing since I was born, and I think I just read things, observe, as I would do with human, to know how react my t-shirts when I do that with my arm, and you just watch things, you just observe, you just try to break out everything, and then you assimilate, and then you draw. And I wouldn't know the Disney thing or the I just remember learning proportion when I was in junior high, and that changed my mind. That changed my world, because I was drawing people with big nose and stuff like that, like French Belgian comics. And then we were learning ancient Greek and ancient Rome, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, you can see the proportion. What was the beauty standard back then,
right?
And things like that. And I started to draw respecting the one head in I don't know 8 or 6 other heads, and I was like, wow, this is cool because you have roots, and I think that started my whole career, because when you work in animation, because it's an industry, because there is many people working on the same characters and stuff like that, you have to set rules, you have to set a chart of everything. So this is my I'm sorry I didn't prepare any page, but this is my portfolio, which is totally a disorder. So in the back here, this is the commercials I work for. This is my student shorts. This is commercials that I work for. This is some live drawing sessions, very long. So I don't have my first show, but my second show was this one about basketball. I'm really a big fan of basketball. And so this is the kind of thing that you do when you're a character designer. You have to do the turnarounds, you have to do some expressions, you have to do some poses, of many characters, and then you have to do all the secondary characters, obviously.
But then you have to also do drawings that explain how you break those characters down into their core shapes, right? Like how you build the character.
Yeah, I don't know, because I never put that in my
in your portfolio.
In my portfolio, because it would be boring. But I actually did that. You have to be sure that the silhouette is good. You have to be sure that the volumes are good and that it can turn. This one is based on Tony Parker, the French basketballer. So it has to be a caricature, kind of. But the other characters are just pure imagination. you have to do like for this guy Rudy, who is kind of the main character. It was a struggle to make the hair turn.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I can't
So
see.
you had to keep simplifying the shapes. Would you actually flip it yourself? Would you flip it to see if it turned? Would you do that?
No, not kind of. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So back then, like it's all made in pencils. So I was drawing with a light box, and yeah, I was putting my drawings like this and checking if it was good, kind of. But yeah, you have to think about like the silhouette and how you can construct that easily for the animators afterwards, because it's for animation. It's not only for you to uh, like to be able to draw, because you know
Right.
that you can draw that. It's your characters, but you have to find like a system, a rhythm
Mhm.
in your shape. For this guy, it was like a round here, and then you cut and you try to not have the same length for everything, so you have a rhythm.
Right.
And then I added this little part here, so it gives like a volume on top of the headband. Um, yeah, you have to find some systems that and some bigger shape, overall shapes that can help the animators to draw it quickly, and even you when afterwards you have to do like facial expressions and special poses, stuff like that. So yeah,
Uh,
So like
I've
something like the shoes. Like people don't think about that, but like something like a gym shoe is actually pretty complicated shape,
yeah.
right? And then
yeah,
like, are you going to draw the laces or not draw the laces?
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's so bad. I should have like take something, because yeah, I really like shoes too. So yeah, I
Mhm.
tend to really want to shape the foot below, behind,
Mhm.
inside. I don't know. The and yeah, sometime when animation was coming back, like you have a foot that is like just a potato,
Yeah.
and you're like, damn man, I have some inflection points everywhere. So yeah, if I have to say some like to do some name dropping, I would say inflection points, silhouettes, and tangent that you have to avoid. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's all about the silhouette, all about to have a good dynamism in your shape. You have to have inflection points, and on this style, it's even more obvious because this is very angular. So you can see like the inflection points here, like you have a lot of like very angular things, and to show the muscles,
Yeah.
it's very important. Even the hands are super square, and yeah, you only will draw this joint and not this one, for
Not the
example. So
right.
this is something that you learn watching Disney or comic books.
Mhm.
This is something that it's like drawing hands like this, with the
Mhm.
two in the middle who are joint.
Yeah.
And this is something that you can see in every comic books, which is Japanese, American, or French.
Mhm.
And this is something that you can see in animation also, because you will have to animate only 3 blocks instead of animated 4.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, all those things, I think it's just observation. And this is what I say to everyone that wants to draw, is that like for sure you have to draw, but you have to start by watching things, for
Mhm.
sure, like doing a lot of observations. um,
Oh, I would say yeah, like you're drawing basketball players, so you'd have. I'm assuming you would do a lot of drawing and a lot of sketches of from people playing a game, freeze it to see the positions of the bodies, the way people are standing, things like that,
Not at
or
all. No,
no?
no, actually I didn't, because I was not an animator. I was just the character designer. So I was like, I wanted to draw like loose clothes and stuff like that. So I did a little bit of like drawing to show the like how you can draw the clothes,
Right.
and especially the shorts, because
Mhm.
they are large, loose shorts. So I didn't want to have a tube that is like this, like with the knee below,
Right.
something ugly. So yeah, I did things like that. some explanations. But yeah, once again, I don't have that here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
Bertrand, I have a great question for you. It's two parts. So our good buddy JRD asks, when working in animation where you are generally working in someone else's style, how do you maintain a sense of yourself in your own style? In other words, how do you not lose yourself developing and promoting someone else's product?
So it's a very interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that all you can see here, my portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
except this one, Doug and Plugs, and this one, Glitchtex, I am the creator.
Mm-hmm.
It's my style. I developed that. This is all me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this one, Doug and Plugs, was the first. First of all, like my first job for the US, I was in France, but I started to work as a freelancer for Nickelodeon. They were the first one to give it a shot with me. So yeah, there was already an established line, and I think that they thought that my style was not too far away from that. So they hired me as a freelancer, and I had to stick to their style. And yeah, I think it's not that different. So yeah, I did some incidentals and stuff like that, some animals. And I think it's actually after more than 10 years of career, creating my characters and being the lead, stepping down and trying to fit the style of somebody else taught me a lot. Because yeah, like usually you make a drawing, and then you have to break it down to explain to the other artists who are working with you how to draw your drawing, you know. And when I worked on Glitchtex, like I had to do the opposite. I had to watch all the drawings that were previously done because I started on episode 4 or episode 5. And I had to break down all the shapes and try to understand how they were made, how they were built, like why these characters have long legs. How do you draw like the bend, the elbow or the knee? Because sometimes it's a very angular, so depending the style. Sometimes it's very round. So yeah, and yeah, I really like that. And I think that one of my strengths as a character designer is that I'm very versatile, and because I'm very passionate and curious about things. And you can see that, yeah, so we watched Tony Parker. I also worked on this thing. Like, this is very like a different style.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I worked on also like something like where it is Lollyrock, which is more manga, with bigger eyes and stuff like that, with small feet, something like that, very girly. Just after this one, I worked with on something that's for young adults. So it's 2 guys like this and a ball. It's
One hairy ball.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I jumped from different audience, different style. Yeah, I worked also. So it was a project that never went through. But this is preschool. This is very for kids, very round shapes. And so I worked on this other one with also preschool, but preschool in CG. And it was like the first time I was working in CG for a while, since 2005 actually. And it was this one, I worked on it in 2019 and 20. So yeah, you have to do like some turnaround like that, like very precise, very stiff, I would say. So this is a VisDev, for example. You have to search some robots, and then this one is selected. So you push it to like this, And then you have to do the turnaround, like with a very thin line, explanation how the wheel is turning. You have examples here, like showing inside the robot how it is. All those kind of stuff. This is another VizDev. I was looking for this cute guy. Yeah.
Do
And
you have
like
any?
an animal or something like that, you have to be like the open mouth.
Yeah.
All the views, like the top view, things that usually you don't do for 2D. Like you never do a top view or a bottom view, and you won't draw also like the bones and stuff like that,
Right, because they're constructing it to in the
Yeah,
round.
and because of my experience as a 3D modeler when I was in Paris, like my first job when I was in commercial, I know what it is to model a CG model. So I knew like what are the things that a modeler need. And on my current show now, I'm working at Nickelodeon. I kind of skip this view because it's always like wrong. So I do a 3-color front view that is a concept, and then you do the technical views for profile and front view, because those are the 2 views that a modeler will use, and then he will take the 3-quarter concept as a reference, as a goal, But basically, to start modeling in 3ds Max or whatever the software, you will use the front view and the profile. The top can be good also. It depends the characters, but yeah, I think that for this show, Dog and Plugs, that is on Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, it was a very good experience that I had working in CG previously in France. It really helped me to go with this thing. And so on this show, to answer your previous question, sorry, this show, like the style was already done was by other people who were not even working on the project. And I started, and I was the only character designer of the show, so I had to draw all the characters based on 3 characters.
Wow.
Like this little robot, this little girl, and the dad of the robot that is not here. Yeah. And based on those 3 models, 3 drawings, I had to create like all the other characters and the proportions and stuff like that. So yeah, I had to break down all the shapes and be sure that it would fit in the universe, in the world.
Yeah,
so it was a very interesting.
I was going to ask you about that, like the shape logic of the human, and then you have to translate that to an animal, which of course are very different shapes anyway than humans, and that a lot of times people don't realize. I think when you do character designs, it includes animals and anything that's a character, a robot.
Yeah.
Right. And so, what about like, animals? Because most people like to draw humans, and they're not as strong with the animal thing. So, did you spend a special amount of time or especially trained to, go to the zoo or whatever to work on, you getting your understanding of, basic animal anatomy?
No, I think that, once again, I observe things. I try to break down the shape to understand the silhouette. And the good thing right now is that you don't even have to go to the zoo, actually. You just open your internet browser, you type the name of the animal. And so for this show, for example, it was a pilot that I directed with my buddy, Etienne Guignard. But it never went to a series. We only made a 2-minute short. The animals are quite realistic, I would say. So it was kind of easy to take images from the internet and kind of trace on top of them. But you have to do that with a smart spirit, I would say. Like don't trace on top, not understanding what is the bone structure behind that.
Right.
Right. So tracing is not tracing. It's like you have to understand the silhouette and understand what is behind that.
Right.
To be able to make them turn afterwards.
So did you have specific like anatomy classes when you were in college, or is that something you learned on your own?
No, not at all. Actually, yeah, as I was saying in the beginning of the show, of the podcast, I like in high school. I was in a high school. My major was business, and then I went to my art school, who was specialized in CG, and so I I didn't really have proper drawing classes in my life, you
Wow.
know. So and this is why actually I started to go to some some things in Paris like this. It was not at school; it was an association, and we were actually on top of a bar. We were at the second floor in a bar, and there were some models like this, and we were drawing like this. And actually, I didn't start with this one. I start with this one. Yeah, that was actually in a school, but after my job. Like I was going in night classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, it was like super long poses, super big drawings. Yeah, it was super long, but super interesting. I started to learn more things for the anatomy, but I never had like proper anatomy classes. Once again, observe and there is so many things and so many books and so many things on internet. I'm thinking about characterdesignreferences.com. They have a gallery that is huge and you can see everything. And I prefer to go there rather than to go to the loophole of what's the name, Pinterest. I can't
Right.
go
Yeah.
Pinterest because I'm gonna spend my life on it. So, so I would recommend to go on character design references. They have a selection of stuff, and yeah, they have everything, construction and stuff. And if you started, if you're starting to draw, they are super good references. So yeah.
Now, one of the things I wanted to also ask you, because I think it's something that goes all the way through your work, is there's a sense of appeal, which
Thank you.
is not something that's easy. Some people naturally have that. Some people just, as you know, you'll have people that can just draw something, and it has a certain sense of charm or appeal to it, and it's not necessarily a formula. Like if you put the eyes so far apart, and if you put this, but did you, because you've worked on so many different shows, but I would say that there is a sense of appeal that it's very consistent, especially in the proportions of, I would say, like the faces. So did you come across something, or did you finally start thinking, or did it gel in your head at a certain point? Like, yes, this kind of way working gives me this result, and this kind of way working doesn't give me that result.
Yeah, I remember that point in my life. I think I was in my first year in my art school, and I was reading F Compo by the same. So it's a manga, Family Compo. It's the same artist who made City Hunter and Cat's Eyes. And I was reading that, and it's kind of realistic, his style. And I was like, the fuck, this is so good. This is very good. And I started to read Slam Dunk also by Takehiko Inoue. And the same. I was like, oh, once again, like drawing realistically is something good. And I was like, okay, and J. Scott Campbell and Joe Madureira and those stuff. And I think that it's a mix of maybe those four artists plus my heritage of whatever I was watching, drawing, and I think this is how I build things. And yeah, I would quote. I mean, I would quote those four artists for my. Like I had this moment where I was like, okay, I think this is how you have this spot of it's appealing. I don't know.
I have a couple of questions. Well, first, we just had Mike Mayhack on 2 weeks ago, and I see that you worked on Cleopatra, and I was wondering, uh, how that project has went for you. You have a really diverse portfolio, but I'm wondering, what do you find different from job to job? What keeps you excited about taking on a new project?
So the genesis of this project was, as I said, I started the first American job that I had was Glitch Text
Yeah.
as a freelancer, and at the same time, or just after, I started to work on Cleopatra in Space.
Okay.
The difference is that Cleopatra in Space was in development at this moment, and that I had the opportunity, I had the enormous chance to be the one who ended up creating the style of the show. So I was in France. It was in summer 2017. And thanks to Angela Mueller, who was previously working on Korra and Avatar: The Last Airbender and stuff like that. She was the art director on this show, and she's the one who found me. And so thank you, Angie, for that. And I started to work on this show. It's funny because the first volume of Cleopatra in Space just arrived in France, was just published. So I went to a library. I bought the first book, and I was like, okay, I will have to work on that. But I was a freelancer, so maybe it was going to be for 2 weeks or something like that. But I was excited to work for DreamWorks. And talking with Angela, the art director, and with the showrunner and everyone of the production. It was not a lot of people because it was only the beginning of the development. I did so many different. I went into so many different directions, and we ended up with this style. And they started to tell me that we shouldn't stick to the style of Mike Mayak. Like the story will be kind of similar, and then diverge to another point. And we should do the same with the character. And if you're familiar with the comic book, I know you are. This character, Aquila, looks like a human in the comic book, but we chose to make her an alien, it's an alien from the beginning of the series, and same for this guy who is a droid, a robot. We know that also, in the design and stuff like that, which is not clear in the comic book. So when you read the comic book, it's like a surprise, actually Aquila is an alien, or actually, Brian is a robot, But in the animation, it's more obvious, and I was asked to make it obvious. So this guy, he has square pupils. He has more square things. I try to put the thing in his hair to be a short circuit. You have some seams or some graphism here. And she's an alien. She has different pupils, irises. And it was a very good experience. It was my first experience in the US, because after the development, I was like, hey guys, if you want me to work on the show, I don't want to work for 1.5 years from France, from my tiny apartment at night because of the time difference. So I started the process of a O1 visa, and so this was my opportunity to come in the US, and it's been 3.5 years now.
It's fantastic. Your stuff is so charming.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed to draw the secondary characters. Yeah, those ones. So this is some of the villains. There are bands of misfits, and there are some students with she's Kali, she's the rival, and Zaid is the lover. And actually Zaid is it's another thing that we did in a show, in the comic book. It's 2 characters. It's Zaid who is an alien, and a guy who is Anthony. And we kind of took the 2 characters and made them Zaid
Right.
but he's a human. He's not an alien. But we took the two personalities of the characters. We kind of mostly keep the design of Anthony, who is human, and keep the name of Zaid, who was an alien. And yeah, so he's the lover. This is a band. This guy, his voice is made by the blonde guy from High School Musical. I forgot.
Oh, okay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a singer. This is the big villain, who is a mummy guy, robot. Then they are the minions. Minions. They are huge, but they are the robots of the big villain.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And it was so good, to work on this show. I really enjoyed that. My first experience. Yeah.
Are you working? Is this all digital now? What is your set? What is your setup, and what is like? How long do you have to do designs? Like, because that's another thing a lot of young people don't know about is like how fast you have to turn around things. What is the flow of the pipeline? Because if people can't storyboard anything, and I know that from being a storyboard person and waiting for designs from the character designer, and then sometimes they would change. You would get like the initial design and the guy's a giant, and then when you get the final design, it's like, oh, he's smaller, So how does that break down for you? What is your design process and turnaround time like?
So first of all, I want to say that what your experience as a storyboard artist with the design changing is something that happened also for me, because sometimes I ship a drawing to the storyboard artist and he makes something totally different, and I'm like, the fuck, I have to redo that.
It trickles down, right? Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's part of the industry. Like we are. Like it's moving like this, like it's going further, like, but it's always doing like this, a little bit. So in time of like as a matter of the timeline, I don't really know.
Like if you get a script, it'll say you have your principal characters, but then you always have new characters.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So the main characters have to be done before.
Right.
That's what we call the Bible, with all the main characters and the recurrent characters. Like if you have, I don't know, the mom of the hero, something like that, she won't. Yeah. She will be like, she's not a main, but she will be in every episode, like for 1 second or 1 minute. So she's the recurrent character. And so that you will create that before, and you have to get approval by everyone. And then once you're in a production, you read a script, you see the description of the characters, and sometimes there are no description, so you will ask the writer or the showrunner to have some things like his age or something like that. Sometime before you start the drawings, they record the voices, so that can be also a great help, because depending the actor that they chose, it will, like, the voice of the actor will give you like a different thing, It's like if you're storyboarding with the voices, or if you're storyboarding just with the thing, you won't have the same pace. You won't animate the same way. So I think it's the same for character designing. So an episode is basically, you have maybe 2 weeks before the storyboard, and then 1 week after the storyboard. So you have to create everything, and maybe you can start to rough the storyboard, the turnarounds before sending to the storyboard artist. And after the storyboard is approved, you will have 1 week or 2, I don't know, to clean up your turnarounds, and maybe to create the secondary characters that the storyboard artist created. Because there is this scene that takes place in a city, and the storyboard artist drew some passerbys. So you have to do that, or maybe for a gag, for a joke, they created one character, or they created a cap of a character. So you have to do this what we call a redress. A redress is when you just add something. It's not necessarily closes, but this is what we call redress.
Like a character now has a wristwatch, and you have to draw it on everything. Right?
Yeah. So this is the kind of things that generally comes after the storyboard. Yeah, because sometimes the watch, like it's not written whether it's this arm or this arm, and you will see that after the storyboard. Because you let the freedom to the storyboard artist to decide if in the direction of his movement of camera or whatever, maybe for the editing, it's better that the character is like this, so you will put the wrist here, or maybe it's the opposite because of the shot before and the shot after, so yeah, it's good to understand that you're working with a team and that you have to let sometimes some things that are kind of fluid or blurry, so everybody can give his own take. And on Cleopatra in Space, I'm very happy about that. Like the storyboard artists were amazing, and the animation at Titmouse Vancouver was also like super good. I'm super proud of this show, guys. Watch it. It's on Peacock, but it's also on Hulu now.
It's on Hulu now.
Now, what is it? So, what is a typical day like when you get your script? You get the handout, right? What is your typical day like as a character designer?
So I wouldn't talk about day, but I would talk about week, maybe.
Okay.
So if, let's say, you start on a Monday, you have a new episode. You will break down that, and you will read the description of the characters, things like that. So you start to rough that, to search for ideas that can be, and search for references. Like if you have to draw I don't know, a robot or something like that. Sometimes you want to, or an animal that you don't know familiarly. Maybe you want to do some research about that, or if it's something that is very crazy, like an alien or something like that, you need more time to create rather than to it's Bertrand. He's an average guy with a T-shirt. Okay. It's super easy to draw, like you can go in million different directions, but you don't need references for that. Sorry, I talk too much.
No, you're great.
So you start on Monday, and maybe you take 2 or 3 days to make the roughs, and then you have an approval, and then you can send to the storyboard artists. I try to remember because now I'm working differently. Like on my previous show, I was not the creator, and now I'm the lead designer. So it's different. It's not really like a week like this, but when I was working on Lolly Rock, this show that is on Amazon Prime in the US. It was like that, like 3 days, I think, to make the roughs, and then 2 days to start the turnarounds. Then it goes to storyboard, and then when it comes back, you have to clean up and everything.
Now, are you doing the cleanups, or do sometimes you have somebody else, like you do the major characters, or you're drawing them and then somebody else is cleaning them up, or somebody else is making a change while you're working on something else? Do you have that going on, depending upon, I guess, the size of the crew?
Exactly, yeah. You can do that. On Lolly Rock, we were 3. I was working with mostly 2 very talented artists, Gael and Benedict. And at some point, we were 8. So I was not drawing anymore, because we were late on the schedule. So I had to manage 8 artists, or 7. I think it was 8. But most of the time we were 3 or 4, and sometimes we were. I was starting a rough, and then Benedict was cleaning, or then Gael was starting a rough, and then I was cleaning it. It has to be like very, and even for the creation, like what happens when you have a team is that you read the script and you're like, I really feel this character. Let me do this. I really want this character. Like I have already an image, but you're like, hey, me too. actually. So I want to give it a shot. So after you compare the two drawings and you pick not the best, but you pick the best ideas of the two drawings, and then sometimes you have to merge the two ideas to end up with the best character that you can in the time that you have. And the time is 1 week max, I think, to draw all the characters of an episode.
So how many characters might that be? 10, 12?
So most of the time on Lolly Rock, it was like maybe 5 characters, but sometimes it was 20. So because it's a production, you know that the next episode will be light or the next episode will be super heavy.
Right.
So you try to, like, if you're not dumb, like, you will try to, like, this week, like, if I have only 5, like, you will try to go fast so you can start the 20, you know.
Yeah.
And the 20 will go a little bit on the next week, hopefully, if it's a 5 character episode again. But yeah, it really depends. It really depends on the writer, and it depends if the director or the showrunner said something or not, and the producer. Because sometimes we receive some script, and sometimes it's the same for the backgrounds. You're like, what? I have like 20 backgrounds to do, like, in 1 week. Like, it won't fit, guy. Like, you should have say something when you saw the when you read the script. And you're like, no, the script is validated now, so you will have to do the 20 backgrounds. And you will die.
Bertrand,
Now-
hold on, Mike. I have a couple questions. Tell me a little bit about project management. So, say when there's the points where you're lead or you have a team under you, how much of your week gets pulled into checking other people's work or delegating tasks to other people while you still have to turn in your own work? Does it make your job easier or harder when you have a team under you?
It's easier, and it's also way more fun.
Okay.
Because I love to work in a team. I think it's so important to share and to emulate also everyone, like on Lolly Rock, I was working with 2 super good artists, and we were constantly challenging ourselves to have the best drawing, the best ideas, the best shape, the best colors and everything. So it's very good to have that, and it's more a blessing than something else. Most recently, when I was working on Cleopatra in Space or on Dog and Plugs, I was the only character designer. So if today my ideas were not good, it was what it was, man, because you have to keep on moving, so you will approve your drawings. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't have better ideas for this character. But I think, like, the time, it may be a 50-50 on taking care of the other artist and drawing yourself. But because the thing is that when you're a lead, your job is to lead, to manage as much as to draw. And as I told you, like, when I was working with 8 artists, I was not drawing anymore. Like, I remember I started the first week. I was like, no, I will continue to draw. And then after the first week, I went to see my production manager, and I was like, it's not possible to do that. Like, I have to step down. I mean, I have to only make notes and to manage. Yeah.
There, it seems like, and this may be less of an animation thing, especially if you're working with the studio, because we all know a couple of independent animators who just kind of do their own project by themselves, and they bring in voice actors or things like that. Especially American comics seems to be a very solo thing. Now, production aside, say if you're a mainstream comic artist and you're part of the production, you're the penciler, you're the inker, you're the colorist, or say you're creating your own work, say you brought up blankets for a second. Have you come across cartoonists or people who came into the industry because they were, somebody brought them in, or they had the hot hand, and found out that they didn't work really well in a group because they were so used to being by themselves?
No, actually, I don't have any experience of that. I always work with talented and very nice people who are committed to make the best show ever. This is also like this is a culture that you have to give to your team also, you know, like there is no place for you to do your own things. Like you have to stick to a style, you have to stick to a timeline and to a schedule and stuff like that. And yeah, this is the kind of thing that might be hard maybe for an artist who is used to work alone on a comic book or something like that. But I think it's also like a good thing. Like they are happy. Like if you spend 2 years like working alone in your studio, now you're working with colleagues. It's fun, you know. So I mean, this is how I see it, because like I can, like most of the things here are development. This one I was working alone. On the development, this one I was working alone. This one I was working alone. This one I was working kind of alone. This one I was working alone, 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 alone. This one also. I mean, all the developments, you know, you're alone. And then when it goes to production, you have a team, or you don't. If it's a very small production, or if it's enough because you don't have a lot of new characters. Like Cleopatra in Space, they didn't have a lot of new characters. In the very beginnings, I had to create all the students. You know, all those guys, like they are like 20, 40 characters.
Wow,
So it was a crush in the very beginning. But afterwards, it was only like 3 or 4, 5. Yeah, for those guys, maybe there is one episode, there is 7 new important characters. But yeah, so I could do that in the American timeline, because there is something that I didn't talk about, but the productions in France are cheaper, so you have to be faster, and you have to do. You have less time to develop and to search ideas. You have to be right away to find the character more quickly.
Wow.
Yeah, in the US, you may have more time to search, you know, like, yeah, for this one, like you can do like a lot of research like this, shapes, colors.
So you would do less of those drawings if you were working in France, just because they want you to just pick one and go right to the finish?
No, it's just that, yeah, you don't. It's not pick one, but it's yeah, you have less time, but. You know, like the frustrating thing sometimes, and I had that on this show, for example, is that I go in crazy direction like this, and they pick the first one that I drew.
Right.
You know, this one. So I was like, okay, maybe I should have drawn only this one. You know, and give them, and give the character to my producer, and they will be like, okay, it's the good one. But sometimes for this character, I think that I started with this one, and I found this one after going in many directions. So sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it seems like it was worthless, useless.
Right.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about?
Because I'm
Okay, sure.
Maybe I'm not going to be burned. Like
why don't you talk a little bit about the technical aspect? Like, what are you drawing with? Are you working on a Wacom? Are you working in Photoshop? What are you, Toon Boom? So, because that's also, I think, another aspect to the industry now. Because when I started, everybody was on paper, and we were inking with markers and pencils, and now everybody's having to do stuff that fits with whatever the production needs, you know.
Yeah, so I'm working with a Cintiq, 22 inches Cintiq, and with Photoshop. And yeah, I don't have Procreate, I don't have an iPad, I just have that. I have Windows. I'm working on Windows with a regular HP computer. Yeah, with a big Cintiq. Yeah. And that's it. And actually, the only software that I have to learn on a production now is the the asset management things like Shotgun. Now it changes name to I don't know the new name, and I'm learning new things like the task and Zoom, obviously this year, and all those things like that. But yeah, for drawing, it's Photoshop.
I'm curious to know if you have gotten, well, obviously a lot of studios are working remote now. If you found a new rhythm of just working at home or in your studio versus being in the same space with a bunch of people.
Yeah, I totally did find my new rhythm. As I told you, like I was working in France on a lot of developments, and so I was used to work at home for months, sometimes, or at night, or whenever I could. So yeah, I adapted pretty easily. I would say that in the beginning of the pandemic, I was in another apartment, and I was working in the living room, and my girlfriend as well. So it was kind of chaotic. We had to adapt or to go to the bedroom to have some meetings, because sometimes we had meetings at the same time.
Right.
But now, as you can see, we moved to a bigger apartment, and this is my office.
Yeah.
This is also the friend's room. This is a convertible couch.
Oh, very cool.
You know, so yeah, the friends can come visit.
Great. I'll be right over.
Yeah, it's sunny here, man. You can come.
So are the hours basically the same now that you are in the pandemic world, or do you still like to have to be around 9 to 5 kind of, normal time, or do people like, as long as you get it in by Tuesday, I don't care if you're up at 4 a.m,
I think it really depends the studio, but I would say that most of the time they simply can't track you. So basically, if you can, if you deliver your things in the morning, they don't know if you worked the previous day or the previous night. So yeah, I like the fact that I can go to the hairdresser in the middle of the afternoon, for example. I should go, because now it's that's why I'm taking this example, because I'm looking at myself and I'm like, the fuck, my hair is so long. But yeah, and even if you want to go to the to the dentist or something like that, you can go in the middle of the day, and you will just postpone your work and finish at 8 instead of finishing at 6 or at 7. Like, I prefer to start at 10 in the morning, because I'm not a morning person. And if I have to do something in the afternoon, I don't care. I will work at night to do my hours and to deliver what I have to deliver. It's I think I'm professional about that. This is the thing that we had to learn. I mean, I was already like this, but I think that maybe the people out of school, they had to learn this this professionalism to.
Yeah. What would you say are the few things that the prospective the young character designer should think about or consider when they are working on their portfolios, working on things? Because, like I said, I would say that of all the things that young artists I meet for the past 10 years want to do, it used to be everybody wanted to do comics. Now everybody, if I get a new crop, I used to teach a high school class every year, illustration class. So like 99% of the people want to do character design or concept, because they just say, oh, concept design or character design. And so now you've been in the business a long time. What would you say are some of the common things you think that people who want to do that should know or should think about or concentrate on or get tripped up by?
So as I already said in the beginning, like, you have to do the boring stuff. You have to understand that being a character designer is not creating a 3/4 front view of a cool, kick-ass character. No, you have to be able to make it turn, and you have to and everybody has to be able to animate it. Because if you do a lot of different hair like this and stuff like that, no animator would want to track that shit, So you have to understand that you're working in an industry, meaning that you have people before you and people after you, and you have to understand that the people after you need that, and that. So I would say to the young people, you have to start very humbly with humility, and observe a lot the pipeline, how it works, what is every job, what you have to do, what the people before you had to do, what you have to do, and what will have to do the people after you. And try to be a good team player, because it's all it is about, If you have a big ego, if you want to create your stuff and make a comic book, But in animation, you have to understand that you're part of a bigger thing, and that it requires to be creative, but it requires also a lot of technical stuff. And in your portfolio, you should show that you're creative. You should show that you have your own style, you have your own personality, but you can also stick to another person's style, because this is how you're going to start. I had the opportunity in my life to be a director super quickly. Then I was the lead, the creator of the main characters of the show. I never started as in a low hierarchy, in a low position. I started with the biggest position all the time. So, but I made a lot of mistakes. So you have to know all the pipeline, and learn how to do a turnaround. You have to understand the volumes. You have to be able to make good mouse shapes and good hands. Also, it's very important. A lot of people, they don't give they don't take any effort in doing hands. They are oh, it's okay. And as you said, feet also are important. Everything is important, actually. So you have to show your own strength in your portfolio, your own style. If your thing is to draw with brushes, for example, I follow a lot of young, super talented artists on Instagram, and they are drawing super cool kick-ass characters on 3/4 front view with brushes and stuff like that. You can't do that in animation. You can't. So if your stuff, if your style is to draw some super good hair with a lot of different, you can't do that. Or it's gonna be in CG. You have to work in VizDev for CG. But if you're working for 2D, it won't happen. When I was talking about pipeline, you have to know if the show is in 2D, if it's in digital 2D, if it's in CG. Everything is changing now with more and more. We have digital 2D, like CLEOPATRA in Space was in digital 2D. So it allows some things. It forbids for certain other things. So you have to know the softwares, or at least the animation technique, because you want to draw the same way, depending the style afterwards.
Yeah. I was just looking at the last What If, the season finale, and that show is amazing, and that's all done with that cell shading and everything, and those characters are all 3D, but it looks 2D, and it's super layered. You've got all the makeup on them, the people's faces, and dirt, and I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, but it's still 3D, and I think that if I had to work on this show as a character designer, it would have to be something super stiff and something very with only one line and stuff like that. And this is the VizDev artists, actually, the ones who are doing the mood board. who are giving this highlight, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me almost like of an Adam Hughes drawing in the
Who?
style. Adam Hughes.
Yeah.
The style of what
Yeah.
it sort of reminds me a little bit of Adam Hughes's.
Yeah.
It's sort of that very
I agree.
almost like a Leyendecker or Adam Hughes. That sort of very highly designed. The line is really cool. The way and how they decide to break the line, and what, like, here you don't see the line on the nose. Here you so where does that line come in or disappear when, like, they turn the head,
So that is something that can be decided when you're picking an artist and you're like, okay, we're gonna follow your style, and you can analyze that the artist is drawing, like you said, one line where it's here or no line when it's like this, and then it's the technical person who are doing that and who are like, okay, we have to write a script to be able to do that, or can we do that, can we not? So this is not a character design problem, I would say. Like I have no power to decide those kind of aesthetics, and because it's technical at this point. Like when it's 3D, it's technical, and like especially for a render like this, like I don't know with who they are working, but they are very talented to have this aesthetic in the end, and I'm sure they had to write some scripts or to do a lot of R&D to find that.
Because they're thinking, like, a lot of times you have something like Cleopatra has that little teeny nose, and if you were doing that in 3D, like sometimes in anime you see somebody's character, it's almost like a little, just like a dot, right?
Yeah.
But then when you turn the head, it has a volume. So somewhere. So have you ever worked on something like that where you had to rethink the way you design something because of the way, if it's 3D, the way that it would move as opposed to 2D?
That's a good question.
I don't think so. The only thing is about the details. If you work on a CG show, most of the modelers will want to add some realistic stuff, like the nostrils and stuff like that. Most of the time when I draw 2D characters, I won't draw nostrils. But when I draw a turnaround for a CG modeler, I will draw that, for example.
That's super specific.
Yeah.
Bertrand, I have a question, and then we're going to wrap up and let you go. But this has been a fantastic evening. As I say every week, I don't know where the time is going. We've been kicking it for almost 2 hours, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself so far.
Yeah, I do.
Now you have a really strong presence on social media, so I want to ask you, how do you feel that having Instagram, or I think you're on Twitter too, is that necessary for your career, or is it just something you like to do to keep your ears open to what's going on in the world?
So I think nowadays, like, the social media is really part of our life, and like for everyone. But as an artist, it's also a tool for promotion. And being an artist, it's being a creative, doing the boring stuff, the technical stuff, as I said. But it's also a lot of networking. It's also like, it's important to get new jobs, and the networking, I will associate that with the fact being a good person. Being a nice teammate, being a good person to be along, So those 4 things, 3.5 things, they are as important. Like, all those things are as important.
Because if you're good, if you're good, but you're kind of not a fun person, people are like,
and if you're super good, but nobody knows you because you're not on Instagram and you're working at home and you've never been in a studio, you won't have a job because nobody knows you. And in the same way, if everybody knows you but you suck, they won't hire you. So,
Hey, I got 90,000 followers, but I suck.
What did you say earlier? You get a 0. That's what happens.
yeah, exactly.
You get your paper first. You get the 0, right?
That's right. You get 0.
Yeah,
Well, and I also wonder, how do you interact with comments and fans on your page, or do you get a lot of people asking you advice or questions, and how do you deal with that?
So my most popular show was this one, Lorry Rock. Like it's on Amazon Prime in the US, but in Europe and in the world, it's huge. It's in every country. I think it's broadcast in every country. There is 2 seasons, and the second season finish with a cliffhanger, a really big cliffhanger, and so everyone is asking for a 3rd season. And we finished that in 2015. So I don't know if there's going to be a 3rd season, a 4th season, whatever. But people are asking me that. Like most of the people that I don't know who are writing me on the social media, they are asking about this show. They are like, "Can you tell me if there's going to be a 3rd season?" And it's been like I started this drawing as 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And people are still waiting for, because people are still discovering this show, because it's like in France, it's still rerun and rerun. In the US, it's
so
rerun.
you're getting younger people now that are just catching the show, right?
And
Exactly. Yeah. And they are asking, they're like, it's not possible that it's finished like this, And so and I have the same kind of comments on Cleopatra in Space, because it also ends on on a cliffhanger, and maybe the watchers read the comic books and they know that there were 6 volumes, so they know that it's not the end of the story.
Right.
And I don't know also if DreamWorks and Hulu or Peacock want to do another show. They didn't contact me, so I don't know. But
can you talk to a little bit about that too? Because I think that's another, you get the show, maybe you get 6 episodes, maybe you get 13. They show it, then you have to wait to see if they could go. And then I know we talked to a lot of friends about this. It's like towards the end of that production, people are like, do I stay or do I jump to another production because I gotta pay my rent or my mortgage? And it seems like when I started in the late 90s, sometimes they would order a year and it would be more episodes, but then they would also renew quicker, because if it was hot, they would go, okay, don't want to lose the crew. They would order like another year, so you had 2 years worth of work. It seems now like Netflix will order something, and then it takes them 6 months or 8 months to decide if they want another show. So you've got to jump, because like the board people are the first people to go, because you board and then you're done, and then you're, like you said, you're finishing up background designs and other parts.
The
of the
writers are
production.
the first.
Yeah, right. So the writers go, then the storyboard people go, then the
designers.
Right, and then so usually like the background people are like some of the last people to go. It seems, at least with the stuff that I was working on, it would be like they would be the last people.
So yeah, I agree with you. It really depends the production, and for sure, right now with the streaming services, the pace is different. For example, on Lorry Rock, we had 2 seasons signed right away. So when I started, I knew that I was going to work for 2 seasons. For this one, Marble Gen, it was 1 season with possibly a second one that didn't happen. And for Basketeers, it was 1 season, but while we were doing the first season, I think we signed for a second one, or maybe there was a little hiatus between the 2 seasons. because I didn't work on the second season because I was already working on Lolly Rock. Yeah. And I was also working on this one, I think, and this one a little bit after, a little bit everything at the same time because it's development. But yeah, it looks like for Cleopatra in Space it was 1 season. For Dog and Plugs it was one season, but it's a smaller episode, so I think they called that two seasons, but it's only one. Glitch Techs, I think they were renewed in the middle of the first and then cancelled. So they started the second season, but they never animated that. I have a friend of mine who worked on the storyboards of the second season, and then they cancelled. So this is the sad thing that can happen right now. And for example, so I just started at Nickelodeon on an upcoming show. But just before I was on Legend of Vox Machina at Titmouse. And so the show is wrapping now. And so I had to leave before for visa issues that we'll talk about later if you want. But yeah, right now the crew is ending, and they didn't sign for a second season because they didn't air the first season. The first season is supposed to come on Amazon Prime, but we don't know when.
Wow.
And I already watched a few episodes, and they are super good, and I guess it's gonna work. I mean, I really love that. I think it was like really a chance to work on this show. But yeah, we don't know if there's gonna be a second season, but everybody's leaving. Like the storyboarders left months ago. The designers are finishing this week or next week, I believe. So I don't know. I think it's sad to let the team go.
But to the fan who's on your Instagram page, you created the show and you know all the answers to everything. To them,
I know some things for the characters, but yeah, for Lolly Rock, most of the time the kids are asking me questions about the scenario, and I'm like, man, I'm not the writer. Right. I didn't choose that. Right. I didn't choose that. Yeah. It's so I can answer your question why I chose this outfit or this color or whatever. But if you ask me why this character kissed this character, or I'm like, I didn't choose.
Now you mentioned the visa thing, which is, I guess, probably an extra problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So I signed. So DreamWorks made a O1 visa for me in 2018 when I came in the US. Then I stayed at DreamWorks and I rolled on to Dog and Plugs. So they had to make me a second visa. A second visa because my visa was only for 1 year. So they made a second visa. And then at the end of this one, DreamWorks didn't have anything starting. So they were like, man, I'm sorry, but we are in a hiatus right now. Like, we don't have anything. And so we can't keep paying you. So you have to go somewhere else. And so I had to find another job and to do another visa, which was at Titmouse, Legend of Vox Machina. But yeah, it's very stressful because every time I finish a job, I have to find another one in 60 days.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
Yeah,
no pressure.
Basically, as you said, when the end of the production is coming, I always start to ask my studio, do you have something like I can roll onto afterwards, because you paid for my visa and so I belong to you for 3 years normally. You know, this is how it works. Except for my first visa, who was a 1 year visa for some reason. I don't know why they did that, but it was what they did. So right now I belong to Nickelodeon for 3 years. Wow. This is what it is. And yeah, every time there is an end of production, I have to find another job and and to find a job that is willing to pay for the visa, which is like $10,000, something like that. So it's a cost they have to add to the production. And they have to wait for me because there is a process. And for example, this one at Nickelodeon, my process lasted 2 months and a half. So when I arrived, I was late on schedule, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is a lot of stress, and especially last year when it was the pandemic and Trump as a president who banned the visa. So it was like a nightmare, and like I'm so grateful for Titmouse to accept it, to wait for me, and to pay for the visa and everything. So yeah, thank you guys.
So if you didn't get the visa, what would happen? You have to go to Canada for 3 weeks, or you have to go back to France?
No, I have to move to France. Yeah. I have to drop my friends, my girlfriend, my car, my apartment, all my furniture, everything, and to go in a plane with COVID, because by the time we didn't know, we didn't have any vaccine. We didn't know if it was a super killing virus or not. But they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, go back to France."
Wow.
I was like, nice. You know? So yeah, it's very stressful. And I am starting the process for a green card now because it's my fourth O1 visa. So I hope that my case is strong enough for that. And after, when I have a green card, I have the same rights as an American work-wise. So it will help me to be more stable and to not have to be scared and to worry when a job ends. I can have like 2 months hiatus. Like I won't have any pay, but at least I don't have to move back.
Right.
You know.
No, that's a giant thing to not have to worry about. So,
Exactly.
but if you need a recommendation, you can ask me or Mike.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I got a spare bedroom. You don't have to worry about it.
That's right. We'll put you up.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, we're gonna wrap. So I'm going to say, Bertrand, you were an amazing guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you in the virtual.
I know, and
and I was super happy to discover your work, Mike. Because when you reach out to me on Instagram, I had the chance to discover your job. Like your inking is like crazy. So yeah, congrats for that. And you've been doing that for years now. And
thank you.
It's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Jamar, I didn't see your work, so I don't know. Maybe I have to follow you on Instagram or so.
Yeah, we'll follow each other.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, on Instagram, like almost every day you find somebody you didn't know about. I mean, that's how I came across your work, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Every day. I mean, it was like a few weeks ago I came across your work. Well, like when you like somebody, then they say look at these other people, and you go through. And I think that if for nothing else, for artists, Instagram is indisposable.
It's very important. LinkedIn. Posting your things on LinkedIn is very important, I think, because you will have all the recruiters of all the companies who are your friends, your connections on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn and Instagrams are the one I post the most. My Facebook is connected to my Instagram, so it posts automatically. Twitter, I always forget to post on Twitter. And also Twitter, I don't like, because there is so many trolls and so many people who are saying bad things. So yeah, I recommend all the young artists to have an Instagram and to be present on social medias. But as we were saying, some people are more sensitive about the comments. And on Twitter, there are some very mean people who are spending their days, I guess, to doing nothing but hating people.
Yeah.
So be conscious about that and preserve yourself. Show to the world your art, but don't listen to the people that you don't care, because like when you're posting your things is to find a job most of the time. So yeah, be happy. And also, there are some people who are running after the views the followers and stuff like that. But if you have 1 million views but you don't have a job, it doesn't work, you know. Like you prefer to have 5,000 followers and to like be super busy at work with interesting things. And this is the reason why you only have 5,000 followers, is because you're always working, so you don't have time to do personal stuff that you will post. Because the thing is that like all the things that are on my portfolio now, they are old. I can't show them. But the thing that I worked on last year and the thing that I'm working right now, I will be able to show them in 2 years. So yeah, you know, it's a balance that you have to find. I super rarely post new things on my social media, as I only like it's like very a promotional thing now. I mostly post when I create a new show, when my new show deliver new episodes on Apple TV Plus, or like I'm like, hey guys, there is some new episode, follow it, watch them. But yeah, I don't have the time, and I'm happy that I don't have this time, because that means that I'm working.
That's right. That's right.
Right,
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, because a lot of people do really worry about the numbers and the likes, and you know,
And
that's
I think
almost
it's
more
important.
important than anything else for them sometimes.
Yeah. No, you have to have real friends in real life, real lover, real, real life hangout, go to restaurants and stuff like that. Don't spend a lot of time on social medias. Just post your art to be discovered, and also reach out to everyone. You know, my jobs for Nickelodeon and for DreamWorks, I reach out to people on LinkedIn. This is how I did it. I wrote to people, and I wrote maybe 1,000 emails, and I had one person who answered. And this is only that you need to have a job.
I like
You
it.
have 1,000 no answer, maybe 5 deny, and you have one person that accepts. And you only need one person, because you only need one job at a time, right? So yeah, you have to be conscious that having 1 million people who likes your work, it's good. Obviously, it's good for your ego. It's good for like continuing and to be proud of yourself and stuff. But if you do that to find a job, you only need to have one person who likes your job and who likes your work and who offer you a job. And don't be scared about reaching out to everyone.
I love it. That's great. That's great advice to end on. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Bertrand, you were an amazing guest. Thank you so much. Guys, we're here
Thank you
every
so
week.
much.
Oh, thank you. And we'll close out with us. We're going to do some Kirby hands, and then we'll go. So we'll be here next week at Wednesday, 8 p.m. I hope you join us. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe, so you can get updates on our next guests. And we can't grow if you don't share, like, and signal boost. So please do your part to help us beat the algorithm. So, all right, guys, thanks so much. We're going to get out of here. For our guests and for Mike, I'm Jamar. And you know what to do. Bertrand, you got it? Let's get those hands washing. Don't forget to wash your Kirby hands. There you go. Oh, those are good.
There you go.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.